My husband's childhood best friend moved in with us. Now I think he wants to steal my husband. The first time I met Elias, I thought he was a ghost. Not literally, of course. But there was something strange about how he showed up, unexpected, unannounced, and entirely out of place. He rang our doorbell at 10:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. My husband, Mark, had just come out of the shower, and I was halfway through brushing my teeth. I opened the door in my pajamas. He stood there soaking wet, carrying a duffel bag, his dark hoodie clinging to him from the rain. He looked exhausted. Hollow, like he hadn't slept in days. "Hi," he said. I didn't know where else to go. Before I could respond, Mark was behind me, already pulling him into a hug. "Eli? Jesus, man, what happened to you?" That was how it started. Mark didn't even ask me before offering Elias our guest room. He just waved him in, threw a towel over his shoulders, and said, "You're staying with us." No arguments. I didn't argue. Not that night. Not when I saw the way Mark looked at him, like he was seeing a part of his childhood come back to life. They grew up together, apparently. Like brothers. Did everything from Little League to high school prom to basic training together before Mark dropped out and Elias stayed in. But Elias had changed. He didn't laugh much. He barely smiled. He looked over his shoulder a lot. Said he'd just left a really bad situation but didn't give details. I tried to be understanding. We gave him space. I cooked for 3 instead of 2. I even cleared out a drawer in the bathroom so he'd feel welcome. But within a week, something started to feel off. At first, it was small things. I'd walk into the kitchen and find them talking in low voices, the conversation ending abruptly when I entered. Or Elias would be sitting on my side of the couch when I came home, Mark's hoodie wrapped around his shoulders. Once, I found one of my coffee mugs in the guest room, with lipstick on the rim. And I don't wear lipstick. When I asked Mark, he laughed it off. "Come on, babe. He's not flirting with you. He's just messy." But that wasn't what I was asking. I wasn't worried he wanted me. I was starting to think he wanted Mark. And then it got worse. Elias started mimicking things, subtle at first. Mark bought a new leather jacket. 2 days later, Elias had one almost identical. Mark switched shampoos. Elias asked me if he could borrow it, too. Mark shaved his beard. Elias did the same that night, leaving his stubble at the edge of the sink. Mark started jogging again. Elias insisted on joining, even though he said he hated running. It felt like I was watching someone slowly merge into my husband's skin. One night, while Mark was in the shower, I walked past the guest room and saw Elias lying on his bed with one of Mark's t-shirts pulled up to his face, breathing it in, eyes closed. Smiling. I froze. And in that moment, my skin crawled like never before. I didn't say anything. But deep inside, something snapped. This wasn't just some old friend in need. Something was very wrong. The next morning, I found Elias in the kitchen, already dressed and cooking breakfast, shirtless. He turned around with this overly bright smile, flipping pancakes like he owned the place. "Morning, sunshine," he said, like we were roommates. "You want coffee? Mark said you like oat milk." I stared at him. He was using my mug. The one with my initials on it. The one Mark got me for our anniversary. "No thanks," I replied curtly, trying to keep my voice neutral. "I'll just eat later." Elias shrugged, then went back to humming some indie tune while stirring eggs. Mark came in seconds later, gave me a quick peck on the cheek, and wrapped his arms around Elias's shoulder like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Smells amazing, man," Mark said. "You're spoiling us." Us? The word rang in my ears. I used to be the one making Sunday breakfast. I used to be the one Mark wrapped his arms around. Now I was just an awkward third wheel in my own kitchen. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting. That maybe Elias just needed comfort, routine, family. But then came the towel incident. I walked into our bedroom after a shower to find Elias's damp towel hanging on my side of the bed. Not on the bathroom rack. Not on the guest room chair. But spread out right across my pillow. I called Mark immediately. "Can you tell him to stop coming into our room?" I asked. "It's not appropriate." Mark sighed, clearly annoyed. "Babe, he probably didn't mean anything by it. You're being weird about this." "I'm being weird?" "He's leaving his towel on my pillow, Mark. Maybe he just grabbed the wrong towel. Don't make this a thing." I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I started paying closer attention. That's when I noticed Elias never looked me in the eye when Mark was around. But when it was just the two of us, he'd linger in doorways. He'd ask overly personal questions. Once, he asked what kind of cologne Mark wore when you first started dating, like it was some kind of sentimental trivia. Another time, I caught him watching our wedding video on the TV in the living room. Alone. Volume off. Just staring. He smiled when he noticed me, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "This part always makes me cry," he whispered, pointing to the moment where Mark put the ring on my finger. My chest tightened. I couldn't do this anymore. I needed answers. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through his duffel bag while he was out for a run. And what I found chilled me to my core. Tucked between a rolled-up hoodie and his military ID was a crumpled notebook, pages filled with messy handwriting. Lists. Schedules. Doodles of our house. And in the middle of one page, centered, underlined, and circled twice, was Mark's full name. Next to it, a checklist. Phase 1, reconnect white heavy check mark. Phase 2, dependence. Phase 3, remove the obstacle. I was the obstacle. I didn't even know how to breathe. I stood frozen in the middle of our guest room, the notebook open in my hands, my heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Remove the obstacle. That was me. I was the obstacle. And Elias had written it down like it was a task in a twisted to-do list. I snapped a photo of the page with my phone, hands trembling, then put everything back exactly as I found it. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Confront Mark? Call the police? What was I even accusing Elias of, thinking bad thoughts? I waited until late that night to bring it up to Mark. We were in bed, the lights off, and I could hear Elias coughing in the guest room through the wall. "I need to talk to you," I whispered. Mark shifted. "Now?" "Yes." "About Elias." He groaned softly. "Not this again." "No, listen to me," I said, sitting up. I went through his bag. "What?" "I know it's bad. I know. But I found something, Mark. A notebook. He's writing things down. Lists. About you. About me. About removing me." Mark sat up slowly, rubbing his face. "Jesus, Emily. Are you serious right now?" I took a picture. "I'll show you." I reached for my phone and pulled up the image. Mark stared at it, squinting in the dark. "This doesn't mean what you think it means," he said finally. "What do you mean?" "He literally wrote my name down as an obstacle." "No, he didn't. He just wrote remove the obstacle." "That could be anything." "Are you defending him?" "I'm saying you're spinning this into something it's not." I was stunned. Mark wanted to believe there was nothing wrong. He didn't want to see it. He couldn't. "You know he watches our wedding video when we're not home?" I said. "That he copies your clothes? Your habits? That he leaves things in our bedroom?" Mark was silent for a moment. Then he got up and walked to the door. "I'll talk to him tomorrow." But he didn't. The next day, Elias was all smiles, wearing one of Mark's hoodies again, whistling while making pancakes. Mark didn't say a word. I tried to stay calm. Tried to act normal. But I started locking the bedroom door at night. I started keeping pepper spray in my bag. And I stopped leaving my toothbrush in the bathroom. 2 days later, I came home early from work. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I called out Mark's name. No answer. I walked down the hall toward the bedroom. The door was open. The bed was unmade. And on the pillow was a shirtless Polaroid of Elias, holding Mark's wedding ring between his lips. I gasped. My stomach turned. I heard the floor creak behind me. I turned. Elias was standing there, smiling. "Did you get what you needed?" he asked. My blood ran cold. I backed away instinctively, but he raised his hand slowly, like he wanted to show he wasn't a threat. "I'm not going to hurt you, Emily. That's never been the plan. What do you want?" He tilted his head. "I think you already know. I'm calling the police." He shrugged. "You can. But what do you think Mark's going to believe? The woman who broke into my things and is jealous of his best friend, or the guy who's been there since he was 10? My hand clenched around my phone. I felt like I was suffocating. "I'm not going anywhere," Elias said softly. "Not until he remembers what we had. What we were." And just like that, he turned and walked away. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just torn my world in half. I didn't sleep that night. Mark was out of town for a work retreat, just for one night, of course, but it felt like he'd left me defenseless. I sat in our locked bedroom with a chair pushed against the door, staring at the picture Elias had left on the bed. That disgusting Polaroid. The way he looked at the camera, like he was posing for me. Like it was some kind of sick game. I wanted to text Mark. To tell him everything, all at once. But what would I even say? "Your best friend left a half-nude picture of himself in our bedroom with your wedding ring in his mouth." He wouldn't believe me. He already didn't believe me. He was so deep in denial he couldn't even recognize the danger in front of him. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. Again. Elias was in the kitchen, acting like the night before had never happened. Like we were just a happy little family. He looked up from the pan, smiling. "Sleep well?" I ignored him, grabbed my keys, and left the house without a word. I needed proof. Something undeniable. So I went to my friend Julia. She was the only one I trusted enough to believe me without thinking I'd lost my mind. I showed her the notebook photo. I told her everything. Julia didn't even blink. "Install a camera," she said immediately. "Hide it in the bedroom, maybe another in the living room. Catch him doing something. Don't wait for him to escalate." She was right. This wasn't just creepy anymore. This was dangerous. That afternoon, while Elias was out, probably at the gym or running errands, I planted 2 small cameras. One in the bedroom lamp. One inside a bookshelf in the living room, angled toward the hallway and couch. Discreet. Hidden. That night, I acted normal. I smiled, made small talk over dinner, even complimented his lasagna. Elias looked so pleased with himself. Like I was finally coming around. We watched a movie together. Some thriller he picked. He sat far too close, his knee brushing mine on purpose. When I got up to go to bed, he asked, "Need company?" I glared at him. "Do you actually think this is going to work?" He laughed. Laughed. "You're not ready to hear the truth yet. But you will be. You'll see." I closed the door in his face. The next morning, I checked the footage. My hands were shaking. Around midnight, the living room feed showed Elias sitting alone on the couch. He was whispering something. I couldn't make it out at first, but when I boosted the audio, I nearly dropped the phone. "He loved me first, he'll remember, she's just a placeholder." He kept repeating it. Over and over. Like a mantra. Then came the bedroom footage. Elias came in around 2 a.m. quiet. Careful. He walked over to my side of the bed. Watched me sleep. Bent down, inches from my face. Then he whispered, soon. And left. I was done playing. When Mark came back the next day, I sat him down and showed him everything. The footage. The photos. The notebook entry. The Polaroid. He went pale. Jesus Christ. You have to kick him out, Mark. Today. Right now. Mark nodded slowly. I could tell he was shaken, but also conflicted. Like some part of him still didn't want to believe the worst about Elias. He needs help, he mumbled. He's not well. I don't care. He's dangerous. So Mark confronted him. Right in front of me. In our living room. At first Elias laughed. Like it was all a big joke, but when Mark told him to pack his bags, Elias snapped. You don't get it, Mark. We had something. You loved me. Before her, before this fake perfect life. Mark stared at him, stunned. We were kids, Elias. You said you'd always be there for me. And I was. But this is sick. Elias's face crumbled. He looked at me, eyes wild. She poisoned you. She turned you against me. Get out, Mark said, voice low. Right now. Elias didn't move. So Mark called the police. They came, calm but firm, and escorted him out. He didn't resist, he just looked back at me as he walked out the door. You'll regret this, he said. I hoped he was wrong. But a part of me knew, this wasn't over. The house felt different after Elias left. Emptier, yes, but not in the way you'd expect. It wasn't peaceful. It was uneasy. Like the walls still remembered him. Like something in the air hadn't cleared. Mark barely spoke for 2 days. He was shaken, obviously, but also embarrassed. Humiliated by how blind he'd been. How long he'd defended Elias even as the red flags multiplied. I wanted to comfort him, to say, it's not your fault. But it kind of was, wasn't it? He led him into our home. He let him sleep 10 feet away from me. He made me feel crazy every time I raised a concern. We tiptoed around each other for a few days. Then, on a Thursday night, Mark came into the bedroom and sat at the edge of the bed. He looked broken. I need to tell you something, he said, without looking at me. I waited. When we were kids. I think maybe Elias had feelings for me. I didn't see it then, or maybe I didn't want to see it. But I remember things now. Stuff he said. How he used to act jealous of any girl I dated. I thought it was just possessiveness. You know, teenage intensity. But maybe it was more. I stayed silent. Let him talk. I was never into him like that. Never, but I think I let him believe something else. Just because I didn't want to hurt him. Mark, I said carefully, you didn't make him do this. He nodded slowly. I just feel like I fed something I didn't understand. I could feel my heart softening toward him again. Because for the first time in weeks, he wasn't gaslighting me. He wasn't defending Elias. He was just a man trying to process a trauma neither of us had seen coming. We decided to take a few days off work. Go stay with his parents out in the countryside. Reset. Breathe. That night, while packing, I noticed something strange. One of Mark's drawers was slightly open. Inside, underneath a stack of old t-shirts, was a sealed envelope. With my name on it. I froze. Carefully, I pulled it out and opened it. Inside was a photo. Another Polaroid. But this one was different. It was taken from outside our bedroom window. At night. The angle showed me, asleep, alone in bed. Curtains barely drawn. And written across the bottom, in that same familiar handwriting, told you. I'm always watching. I dropped it. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't over. Elias was still here, somehow. I ran to Mark, showed him the photo. He went white. How did this get in here? You tell me, I snapped, panic rising. You said you threw him out. Did he come back? Did he still have keys? No. I changed the locks the day after. I swear. We called the police again. They took the photo and dusted for prints. One partial. Unclear. No clear ID yet. But the officer said something that chilled me. If he's watching from outside now, it means he's escalating. People like this don't go away quietly. You need to document everything. And you need to be prepared. We installed security cameras around the house the next day. Floodlights. Window locks. I stopped going out at night. Kept the curtains shut even during the day. Mark slept with a baseball bat next to his side of the bed. The first night after the new security system was up, I checked the footage before bed. At 2:16 a.m. one of the cameras caught a flicker. Just a shadow. A shape near the fence line. Paused. Watched. Then walked away. I don't know if it was Elias. But I knew exactly what he wanted me to feel. Fear. And it was working. After that shadow on the security footage, I couldn't sleep properly anymore. Every creak in the floorboards, every gust of wind against the windows felt like Elias breathing down my neck. The fear didn't come in waves, it was constant. A low, dull buzz in the background of everything. I started jumping at noises. Avoiding mirrors at night. Checking the locks twice, 3 times. I didn't feel like myself anymore. And the worst part? Mark was unraveling too. He was trying to be strong, to be the protector, but I could see the guilt corroding him from the inside. Every time he looked at me, it was like he was asking a question he couldn't say out loud. Did I invite the devil into our home? I tried to stay calm for him. I tried to hold us both together. But Elias wouldn't stop. 2 mornings later, we woke up to find our dog, our sweet, 10-year-old Labrador, Machi, missing from the backyard. The gate was open. Not just unlocked. Unlatched, as if someone had purposely let her out. I screamed. Mark and I searched for hours. Posted online. Called the shelters. At 2 p.m. we got a message from an unlisted number. You really should take better care of what you love. Attached was a photo. Machi, alive, tied to a tree in some forest clearing, eyes wide. We called the police again. They traced the message back to a burner phone, dumped an hour later in a city trash bin. No fingerprints. No trail. That night, Mark finally broke. I think I need to tell my parents everything, he said, sitting on the edge of the bathtub. I kept trying to protect him, but this is insane. He's sick. He needs help, or he needs to be locked up. Do you really think he'll stop? I whispered, even if we tell the world? Even if he gets arrested again? Mark didn't answer. Because deep down, we both knew the truth. Elias didn't want money. Or attention. Or even revenge. He wanted Mark. And the more we resisted, the more violent his obsession became. 3 days later, something happened that I still can't explain. I came home from the grocery store alone. Mark was out at a meeting, and as I stepped into the living room, I saw it. Our wedding video. Playing on the TV. I didn't press play. I hadn't touched the remote. But there it was, looping silently, the vows, the kiss, the dance. And right there, in the reflection of the TV, I saw it. Someone had written something on the wall behind me. I turned slowly. Scrawled across the living room wall, in what looked like red lipstick, he was mine first. I ran outside so fast I left the front door wide open. The police came again. Checked the footage. Nothing. The hard drive had been wiped. Only the cameras outside had any remaining feed. And the backyard one, blurry as it was, caught what looked like a hooded figure scaling the side fence. How he got in. How he got out. We didn't know. That night, I told Mark I couldn't stay here anymore. I can't keep pretending we're safe, I said. He's not going to stop until something horrible happens. Mark nodded. His face was pale. Hollow. We'll go to my parents tomorrow. Just pack tonight. I thought that would be it. But at 3:42 a.m. I woke up to Mark screaming my name. I ran downstairs. He was holding a piece of paper. It had been slid under the front door while we were asleep. It was a wedding invitation. White cardstock. Gold trim. But instead of our names, it said, Mark and Elias. Ceremony, soon. On the back, in blood-red marker, I'll be wearing your suit. Mark dropped the paper and backed away like it was toxic. I looked at him. And I realized. I'd never seen him that scared before. Not even during the confrontation. Not even after the dog, the wall, the videos. Because this wasn't just harassment anymore. It was a promise. And whatever Elias had planned next, he was ready to make it real. We didn't sleep after that. We packed what we could into 2 duffel bags, grabbed Machi's leash, and left before the sun came up. Mark's parents lived nearly 2 hours away, in a quiet village with spotty reception and zero nightlife. For the first time in weeks, I felt like we might be out of his reach. No big roads. No train lines. Just old houses and old people. A dead zone for predators like Elias. But the paranoia didn't leave me. I kept checking windows, locking doors, glancing at the woods that surrounded the property like they were filled with eyes. Mark's mother, Colette, was kind but cautious. She asked what was going on, and Mark just said we were having some security issues in the city. He didn't explain further, and I didn't press him to. His father, Alain, was colder, strict, distant, a man who spoke in facts and silence. I could tell he thought I was being dramatic. We stayed in Mark's childhood room. Twin bed. Posters of old football players still on the walls. It was surreal, like I was sharing a room with 15-year-old Mark instead of the man who used to hold me at night, whispering that we were safe. 2 days passed. Then 3. No messages. No signs. No lipstick on the windows or photos slid under doors. I started to let my guard down. Until the 4th night. It started with the lights. Around 1 a.m. the power went out. Total darkness. At first, we thought it was just an outage, old countryside wires, maybe a storm. But when Alain checked the breaker box, he found it ripped open. Someone had tampered with it. Mark and I looked at each other. My heart dropped. Colette called the gendarmerie, but they said it would take at least 45 minutes to arrive. In a town this small, the only officer on duty was handling a car accident 20 kilometers away. So we waited. In the dark. All 5 of us. Sitting in the living room with candles lit and the door locked. I was clutching Machi so tightly she started to whine. Then, a sound. A tap. From the kitchen window. Then another. And another. Like someone was throwing pebbles at the glass. Alain stood up, went to check, but I grabbed his arm. No. Don't. He stared at me, and for once, I saw it, the same fear I'd been living with for weeks. And then, the front door rattled. Not knocked. Rattled, like someone was trying keys. Cycling through them. Click. 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 Mark turned white. He had a copy. From before. From when he lived with us. I never changed my parents' locks. I didn't think. Click. The door creaked open. And there he was. Elias. Standing in the doorway like he belonged there. Calm. Smiling. Wearing a suit. Mark's wedding suit. From the dry cleaner bag we'd packed and stored at the bottom of the hallway closet, now missing. Colette screamed. Alain shouted and lunged, but Elias didn't flinch. He held up a small box. Black. Velvet. Opened it. 2 rings. Matching, shiny. Shoo, he whispered. Don't ruin the moment. Mark stepped in front of me. Elias. Get out. Right now. I came to take you home, Elias said softly. She's poisoned you. I know you see it now. You used to be mine, Mark. You were. We played husband and husband before we even knew what the word meant. Don't tell me you forgot. I was 10, Elias. We were kids. That wasn't real. Elias's face darkened. It was everything to me. He took a step forward. That's when Machi barked, loud, sharp, aggressive, and lunged. Elias dropped the box. Screamed. Alan tackled him. Hard. Years of military service kicked in, and before Elias could reach into his coat, God knows what for, he was pinned to the ground, Colette calling the cops on speakerphone. Elias spat at me as they dragged him out. This isn't over, he hissed. You don't get to erase me. As the police finally took him away, I stood frozen. Because deep down, I knew he meant it. He didn't just want Mark. He wanted our story. And he wasn't going to let anyone, especially me, be the ending. They kept him in custody for 48 hours. Not because of what he said, he never made a direct threat, but because of the illegal entry, the power box tampering, the stolen suit. Alan gave his statement. So did Mark. The police were shaken but careful. They said Elias was disturbed, but without stronger charges, he'd be out quickly. And that's exactly what happened. After 2 days, he vanished again. Disappeared like smoke. His number disconnected. No fixed address. We found out through a friend of a friend that he'd quit his job a month before the first incident. Closed his accounts, sold his car. It was like he'd erased himself, become a ghost. But his presence didn't vanish with him. It lived in us. In Mark's silence. In the way I jumped every time the doorbell rang. In the way I couldn't look at the wedding photos anymore. We tried therapy. At first together, then apart. Mark blamed himself for letting Elias into our lives. I blamed myself for not speaking up sooner. For not pushing harder the first time something felt off. But mostly, we blamed a kind of innocence that got ripped away, something that used to exist in our marriage before Elias cracked it open. Mark changed after that. He got quieter. Protective, but distant. Like he was afraid to touch anything too tightly, in case it shattered again. I understood. But I was grieving the version of us that used to laugh without looking over our shoulders. We moved 6 months later. New town. New names on the mailbox. A new lock system with cameras I checked every morning. Elias hasn't come back. Not yet. But a few weeks ago, something strange happened. I went to pick up a package at a local pickup point. They handed me a box addressed to me, but with no return name. Inside? A photo album, leather-bound. First page, a picture of Mark. Age 10. Smiling at a birthday party. Second page, Elias. Same age. Right beside him. Arms wrapped around his shoulders. Best friends forever written in bubble letters underneath. Third page, a photo of Mark and me at our wedding. But the faces were scratched out. Both of them. And below, a note, you stole something that wasn't yours. Now I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. That was 2 weeks ago. We gave it to the police. Again. They opened an investigation. Again. But unless he makes a move, they say there's not much they can do. Mark offered to go back into hiding. I said no. Because I'm done hiding. I'm done letting this ghost live in the walls of our home, in the space between my husband and me. I don't know what Elias wants anymore. Maybe it's not even Mark. Maybe it's the version of life he imagined, one where he was the chosen one, the loved one, the only one. But that life doesn't exist. And neither does the boy who used to call him best friend. We live our lives now with one foot always braced. one eye on the door. One breath away from fight or flight, and every time I hear a knock, I wonder, is it just a delivery? Or is it Elias, finally ready to finish his story? I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore. But I'm tired. And I don't want to be afraid of my own love story forever.
Follow me for more stories.